everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm here today to share with you my November to be read pile. Second to last TBR of the year. Here we are in the dark time of year in the Northern Hemisphere. So just trying to get through the very short days as they keep getting shorter and shorter. And so I think that really informed my reading for this month. Just that vibe of like cozy, where I live in the Pacific Northwest, so it's very rainy and chilly this time of year. So just that kind of cozy vibe of like cozying up and reading. I also wanted to say and mention that it's going to be Nonfiction November. I know that Olive from A Book Olive is no longer hosting anything specific to Nonfiction November, but to me, November will always be Nonfiction November. I already read a lot of nonfiction all the time, but I tend to add a bit more of it to my TBR in November. And so this November I have two memoirs, actually two art-based books that I'm reading, and then one kind of historical nonfiction that I'm reading, and then one great big fiction. So I'll get to the books now. Okay, I'm going to start with the nonfiction in honor of Nonfiction November. So, The Debatable Land of a Lost World Between Scotland and England by Robb. I've had this on my TBR for a very long time, and my partner and I are planning a trip potentially to Scotland for next year, and so I thought it would be fun to start reading a little bit around that area. So this book is actually about the border between England and Scotland. It's a border that has been contested and fought over for hundreds and hundreds of years. There is a lot of history around it that Robb discovered when he lived very near this border, and I think it's also kind of a look at borders and like what that means when you're taking this piece of land that is continuous and you're dividing it with a line, and how what that says about humans and the history of that area. So I'm very excited to read a little bit more about that and learn more of how this area has been contested over the years. Okay, so the first memoir I'll tell you about is Golem Girl by Riva Lehrer. And this is, I'm actually listening to this one on audio, and it is narrated by Riva Lehrer. And she is a disabled person. She was born, I believe, with spina bifida. And she's artistic. And so this is her story of her life. It's her story of feeling like an outsider. It's her story of living in an able-bodied world when you are not able-bodied. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to hear about her life and about her thoughts and everything like that. And then the other memoir that I'm reading is called Drawing Blood by Molly Crabapple. Molly Crabapple is an illustrator, and she came of age in the early aughts, and so she was out traveling Europe, came back to New York. She had grown up in New York and came back to New York just before 9/11, experienced the aftermath of 9/11, and then also was in New York kind of in the club scene and like involved with lots of interesting characters, shall we say, before the 2008 crash. So this is kind of the area of her life that she's focusing on in this one, and it's about, her path to becoming an artist, her path to and how she interacted with all these different characters in New York City. So very interested to see if I like this one. My other art-related book is The Mirror and the Palette by Jennifer Higgie. This is our Patreon book club read. You are welcome to join in. We are reading this over the span of 3 months, and really we've just gotten started. And so if you're interested in joining us for the Patreon, you can just go into the description box below and click on the link, and that will tell you all you need to know about book club. And we have discussions once a month, and we like to talk about books around art. The other book around art that I'm reading is Open Questions, 30 Years of Writing About Art by Helen Molesworth. And so this is a collection of Helen Molesworth's writings. She is an art historian / art critic. She's probably my favorite art historian / art critic. She was very famously fired from the Los Angeles Museum of Art, I believe, or Modern Museum of Art, for refusing to bow down to the board about the artists that she wanted to promote in her shows. She is a great personality. She hosts the David Zwimmer podcast often. I really love her perspective. She's a queer woman, also grew up in New York. She just has a very, I don't know, something about her way of looking at the world is something that I find very compelling. And this is actually my slow read. So I've actually been reading this for a few months, off and on. I've only read 2 essays, I believe, in this collection. And I had a slow read a few years ago. I think the book took me 2 years to read. I just read it occasionally, picked it up when the urge hit. And I actually really enjoy having a slow read. And I did forget to mention it to you here, but you can know it's going to be on the background, and when I eventually finish it, I will talk about it in a wrap up. But I think that it's a great, especially at this time of year where you are encouraged to speed up because the end of the year is coming, but your natural inclination to go with nature is to slow down. Having a slow read, something that you're not trying to finish for, any certain date, is just a really nice feeling to have. So that is what Open Questions is for me right now. And now, my big novel. So I am going to be reading Menewood by Nicola Griffith. So Nicola Griffith wrote the novel equally as large, Hild, which is set in the 7th century and follows the character of Hild. She was a real life woman. There's very little information about her, but Nicola Griffith created a very rich and immersive novel about her life. She was revered as some sort of a prophet / advisor at a very young age to the king. Obviously, the British, like England and the surrounding areas, were very, very volatile during the 7th century. There was a lot of war, there was a lot of battling over territory, a lot of illness, a lot of different things happening that were very worthy of writing about in novels. So where we come, this novel takes off exactly where Hild ends, I believe. She's 18. She's now considered a full adult. She is functioning as a overseer of a certain amount of land, but she's brought back into the fold of the king when he requests her presence, and then she has to make a lot of decisions about the people who are living under her, who she's responsible for, as wars and different things emerge. So this is 681 pages. This is a big book. I felt like this was the perfect time of year for me to just jump into something very big, immersive, and it's probably going to be the only novel that I read in November. I guess it will depend on how quickly I get through it, but I just wanted to be able to drop into something, like completely compelled to just read the story and not be distracted by any other novels going on in my head. So perfect time for a really big book is this time of year, I think, other than the fact that you have to hold it when you're reading it, but whatever. So that is my TBR for November. It's not that many books. But I'm not really looking for quantity. At this point, I think I'm well on track to hitting my reading goal by the end of the year. So I'm not worried about like adding more books to try to, meet any number or anything like that. And I'm also just really trying to look at my TBR and pick books that I really want to read. I just really want to read them. And that has been a really great part of my whole year of 2025 in reading, I'd have to say, is that I've really picked books that are calling to me and read them for that reason. So that's been great. And yeah, so that is my TBR. And I hope you have a wonderful reading month in November. And I will be back again soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching.